Well, good morning and good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Duncan Harris, and I'm the President of the Australia-Africa Chamber of Commerce. I welcome you all on behalf of the AACC, but also our partners, Global Victoria, Austrade, and Ostmine. This event is an important next step in the stage in the rollout of our 12-month METS Accelerator program that aims to assist Australian METS producers to find new and profitable markets in Africa. Today's event is focused on Ghana. In this first phase, Know Your Market, you'll hear from two key Ghana-based speakers who I will introduce to you shortly. Before we get started, there's also the usual important pieces of housekeeping. This session is being recorded and will be available shortly afterwards on our AAC website, along with those of our partners. We will have a Q&A session at the end of our presentations, and you can submit your questions at any time throughout the session via the chat box at the base of your screen. I'd now like to introduce you to the first of our speakers, Adu Ampofo. Nana is the managing partner and co-founder of Songhai Advisory, much respected organisation. Songhai Advisory provide three fundamental and critical services for market entry: local knowledge, business intelligence, and an on-ground presence supported by an extensive network. Nana has assisted private and public sector clients in sub-Saharan Africa to identify, differentiate, and navigate perceived and substantive risks across the region, as you will see and hear in his presentation. Welcome, Nana.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Duncan, and thanks everybody. That's such a kind introduction, by the way. It's it's a nice way to start the day over here. Yeah, so I'll begin by let me share my screen if the technology will allow me. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Lovely. Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah. So thanks again for having me, for taking the time to sit down together. It's yeah, it's a privilege, and you know, to discuss such a vital area for the country and the risks that frame its opportunities. Right. I'll just begin sort of setting the scene in terms of, as I say, Ghana's mining sector and associated risks. Ghana is one of the more mature markets, one of the larger markets and more mature markets in terms of its mining sector. Foreign direct investment, foreign goods and services have played an important role in the development of the industry over the past 4 decades at least. As my colleague John will go into a bit more detail about who the players are in the sector and the such, but you'll get a chance to hear a bit more about that later on. But one of the reasons that is the case, that Ghana's got this expanded mining sector and that foreign investment has been able to play such a pivotal role in its development, is the predictability of the country risk environment in Ghana and the familiarity of its governing institutions and regulatory frameworks to those same investors and or exporters. That's not quite the same thing as saying that the risk environment is entirely sanguine. The nature of economic activity is risk, as one mining sector executive I was speaking with the other day was saying. It's not, there are no guarantees in this life. It's not that you'll put your money in tomorrow, you get to retire. It's not that, but the sort of language that you hear about Ghana is that this is a good place to work, a good place to do business. Slightly less PC people would say this is Africa for beginners, that sort of language about the operating environment. Having said that, the risks are the risks that are present are real and should be prepared for and mitigated against. Over the next few slides, I'll get a chance to say a bit about the macro context that is the driver for these risks, and to enumerate them in a bit more detail. So economic, political, and environmental and social governance related. Right. So the Ghanaian economy is the second largest in the region, which I'm sure some of you will be aware of in terms of population and in terms of GDP. If we were to, second behind Nigeria, if we were to look at per capita GDP, it's third highest in the region. I think only Côte d'Ivoire and Cabo Verde have a higher per capita GDP, and there are characteristics about those two economies that quite apart from the point about the size of the extent of natural resource wealth, Ghana is a much larger economy than Cabo Verde, and Ghana benefits from a level of political stability and institutional depth that Côte d'Ivoire has not yet been able to establish, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. The other thing that these figures point to is the participation of foreign direct investment in the Ghanaian economy. So if we say that Ghana is an open economy, I think this figure says something about it, in that foreign direct investment is equivalent to 56% of GDP in Ghana. To find similar figures or higher figures, you would have to go to much smaller economies like Cape Verde again, or Niger. And as I said, Cape Verde, a much smaller economy. Mining is not a significant part of it. And in Niger's case, whereas mining is significant to the economy, we're talking about, again, a level of political risk that is not present in Ghana, both in terms of, the absence of a government monopoly on violence, the extent to which there are armed forces on Niger soil, and the participation of jihadist groups, as we'll come on to in a bit. So that's where Ghana stands in terms of just getting a sense of the scale. But if we think about as I say, the trends and how to think about, I think, economics as a driver of risk for potential exporters or investors in Ghana, I think we should think about transformation, the rate of transformation in Ghana. I think it's such an important thing to bear in mind. So let me start with the recent. So in 2000, these are nominal GDP terms, but in 2000, you're talking about an economy of less than 5 billion USD. In 2010, $30 billion USD. And as I just said, in 2020, just under 70 billion USD in nominal terms. So over that period, Ghana has been one of the fastest growing countries in the world, one of the fastest growing countries in the sub-region coronavirus, of course. But if you dig into the sectoral distribution of the economy, I think something that is apparent there is that the agricultural sector has, the growth of the agricultural sector is significantly less dramatic, particularly post 2010, than services and industry. At the same time, a picture that I think, alongside that, something I think we should be aware of is the expansion and just the size of the Ghanaian population. So, 66 million at the time of independence, or nearly, or shortly thereafter, up to 30.8 million today. I think what this means, though, is that both Ghana's political institutions and its businesses are in a race to generate adequate resources to meet the expectations and the requirements of this larger population, and also a population with much higher expectations about quality of life than will have been the case, not just in 1957 or 1960 when Ghana got its independence, but even 20 years ago. So that Ghana's political decision makers have to pedal a little bit faster every year, and that's the same again of the of business leaders. So when we come on to questions about Ghana's, well, I'll move straight on to it actually. Thinking about the shape of economic risk in Ghana, that expansion and that heavy peddling is associated with these figures that you can see here. Typically in Ghana, there has been this problem with dual imbalances on the internal imbalances, economic imbalances, and external imbalances. So the external imbalance that I'm talking about is the current account deficit and international reserves position, and what that means for currency stability and price stability in Ghana. Effectively, Ghana's import dependency, with every dollar CD of new income, a disproportionate amount of that from developmental purposes is destined for imported goods in a way that contributes to this expansion in at points in the current account deficit, and sort of feeds into the currency position and around again into domestic inflation. What you can see here is that the extent of that issue has fallen somewhat since a peak in 2014-15 odd. It's come back down again. But what hasn't reduced for Ghana is the extent of its fiscal imbalances. So on that internal aspect of it, the fiscal deficit at the moment, depending on what's included, specifically the extent to which money spent to resolve a banking sector crisis, money spent to resolve an energy sector crisis, but to the extent that those things are included in our estimate, and here they are, the fiscal deficit in Ghana last year was equivalent to 16% of GDP, which was the highest in the sub-region. That is linked in part to the pandemic and what that's done to growth, but there are much more structural factors there. I think some of that volatility that you can see in the graph is linked to spending plans associated with the electoral cycle. As you would expect, politicians are under pressure to spend as they approach elections, and that does tend to pop up immediately in the fiscal deficit figures immediately after an election. Associated with that is this expansion in public debt to 78% of GDP, and expected to continue increasing. While Ghana has grown rapidly over the last 2 decades or so, it hasn't grown at a rate that it's allowed it to generate sufficient resources to pay down that debt, to put itself on a more sustainable public financial management path. Those problems will have to be addressed, and that is a source of cyclical risk for Ghanaian companies investing in Ghana and doing business locally. I think, as you'll see in a short bit, those efforts to find revenues can be erratic as well, which is a thing that mining companies will experience. So now that we said a little bit about Ghana's economic context, we can look at the political topography, the political landscape in Ghana. And as I said, the political environment in Ghana is more predictable, or rather the operators in Ghana benefit from the comparative predictability of Ghana's political landscape. Ghana was at the vanguard. It was amongst the first to achieve independence, of course, but also amongst the first to reinstitute multi-party democracy in under the 1992 constitution. Currently, if you include, the earlier attempts at, well, firstly, by far, this has been the longest period of government under any system post-independence for Ghana. Secondly, Ghana has now spent more time under multi-party democracy than any other system of government, be it military and the such. I think this is important because it affects expectations and parameters and acceptable parameters of behavior for Ghanaian interest groups. The sort of coup d'etats which you can see happening in some of the other West African markets pointed out here. You know, the last such event in Ghana was 1983. Right. And what all of this means, in addition to the predictability I pointed to, is that the institutions and the actors in the Ghanaian regulatory regime are pretty well established. They're well known and well established. Whatever complaints there may be about the pace of bureaucratic decision making, the path and the players are well articulated. In addition to which, there's also significant experience within the civil service about how to do their jobs. Other markets in the region, there is less of that experience, be it we're talking about the, Lands Ministry, Minerals Commission, Environmental Protection Agency and the such. There, Ghana benefits from a level of experience that is of benefit in comparative terms. Right. Just to emphasize that point. So what the red and the blue on this slide refer to the two major parties, red being the New Patriotic Party, which is currently in power, blue here being the National Democratic Congress, which is the current opposition. So since the restoration of multi-party democracy, power has changed hands between the two parties every 8 years or so, and currently Parliament is evenly balanced between the two parties. Evenly balanced to the extent that each has 137 seats in Parliament, and there's one independent who votes alongside the government currently. They come from different political traditions. The ruling party comes from the centre-right political tradition, and the opposition from the centre-left political tradition. But in practice, there's very little difference between the two. The macroeconomic drivers of policy, the interest group dynamics are fairly similar, at least when we're talking about ideology. The ideology is similar enough to the extent that, under the centre-right government, one of its flagship policies was the expansion of free secondary school education. Speaking to operators in the mining sector about how they experience regulation, you will rarely hear a distinction along lines of party. This is despite the fact that the NDC and the NPP have rival support bases, geographically speaking, or in the country. So just to point out, the little black, what would I call that, dots there refer to some of the countries that have experienced rebel or jihadist activity rather. And just to indicate the extent to which that isn't the case in the market that we are focused on currently, neither has Ghana seen the kind of separatism or ethnicized identity issues as we have in neighboring markets. I think ethnicity matters for sure, but it doesn't matter in the same way, and it doesn't matter with the same volume as it does in some other neighboring markets. I don't know how I'm doing for time, but let me move quickly there. So yeah, so I think yeah, so something else I should say possibly about the predictability and the common ideology between the two parties refers to the manner in which sort of tax treatment of mining operators. As I said, Ghana is outward oriented, but if you look at average tariff rates, if you look at corporation tax as applied to mining corporations, if you look at royalty rates in Ghana, it's not at the bottom of the table. The rates are not the lowest in the region. They're either comparable or in some instances slightly higher, which I think reflects the need to generate funds. Last year, there were a policy was introduced to try and raise funds out of small scale mining as well, in terms of a 3% levy. But an issue is that compliance is weak. According to a recent World Bank study, the estimation was that income tax, VAT, and import taxes are equivalent to 15% and 60% and 70% of potential respectively. This isn't always due to evasion. Sometimes the communication, the understanding by well-meaning actors is limited, or governance capabilities are limited. So there are various ways in which this is a thing that's being worked on currently, and one of them is innovations around tax litigation in Ghana, new bodies being created by the authorities for dispute settlement. Large taxpayers are often a focus of efforts by government to generate revenues. Mining companies are large operators. They're often protected by stability agreements. So one approach is that mining operators describe to us is sort of ad hoc audits that they feel that they are subjected to, that can be, for want of a better word, if we don't want to go to disruptive, that might be too extreme. You might say annoying at least. Right, my sense is that I'm pushing time, so I'll move on to the sort of ESG point for Ghana. As I say, security risks for mining operators in Ghana are generally good in comparison to other jurisdictions, but there are localized issues, and one of them is illegal mining activity, or illegal, and also you might describe it as artisanal. The local parlance is galamsey, there's a consensus that this small-scale artisanal mining, although reliable figures are difficult to establish, it's pretty clear to everybody in the industry that there are a significant proportion of the population who draw an income from artisanal mining. The vast majority of these activities are informal. There are only 300 or so registered small-scale mines that are referred to, and the activities of these small-scale miners, illegal miners, are problematic for legal operators. They are also typically associated with harm to the environment, for example, pollution of Ghanaian water bodies. The government response was a ban between 2017 and December 2018 on small-scale mining, and latterly trying to formalize and raise the productivity of small-scale mining, effectively to slot them into the supply chain in a way that creates jobs and gives mining in the country social license to operate. So that this mining operation, this policy is also associated with actions by the security services in Ghana to close illegal mining sites, and those activities have been ratcheted up since 2017 and into early this year. And the community mining scheme as I say, aiming to create jobs for host communities. The risk is that these efforts are not successful enough to give mining operations in Ghana sufficient social license. So it adds to legitimate expectations on the side of Ghanaian host communities that they will be able to find jobs in the sector. But if those communities move before the contractual structures are in place, then it, not just contractual, but operational structures are in place, it creates hazards for mining companies whose concessions they have moved onto, as well as additional environmental risk. And it's not yet clear that the policy has been established with sufficient efficacy to give confidence to all the required stakeholders and actors. So that's where I'll land for now. As I say, Ghana, a mature and well-established market. The structural context gives rise to political risk in the operationalizing of the need to generate new tax revenues is, a source of policy risk. And then there is this question about the social license to operate between host communities and mining operations in the country. So I'll press pause for there, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat in the questions.
Nana, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I just say that your last business to do with ESG is creating uncertainties everywhere as to how we implement it, so you are not alone. Can I just next welcome a speaker, is John Atiamoah. John's based at the Australian High Commission in Accra, in Ghana, and John is Austrade's Business Development Manager, West Africa, responsible for promoting Australia's capabilities in the resources and energy sector. With a background in engineering and business administration, John assists eligible Australian METS companies to access commercial insights and opportunities in the mining industry in West Africa, predominantly Ghana, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. John has a direct connection to the local mining industry and will provide us with an introduction to the business environment in Ghana from a mining and METS perspective. Welcome, John.
All right, okay, all right about that, sorry. So I think I've been timed out of that, sorry. I'm just bringing this up and then I'll run through it. Okay, so just to talk about Ghana in a nutshell. So the West African country is located and bounded by three major other West African countries. That is Ivory Coast to the west, Burkina Faso to the north, Togo to the east, and then below Ghana is the Gulf of Guinea, where there are oil exploration activities ongoing. In a nutshell, Ghana is like about the size of Victoria and has a current population of about 30.8 million people, and a recent GDP of about $6.8 billion. This is actually being projected to go up to about 75.5 billion. You can bring that up, 75.5 billion by IMF as of this October. Now, there are a few mining companies, let's say in Ghana. However, I'll touch on the major ones and then go into the details about those of the small scale mining. So in Ghana currently, the mining industry of Ghana accounts for about 6.9% of country's GDP, and minerals alone makes up about 41% of total export. Now, taking this into perspective, gold alone accounts for about 90% of total mineral exports, and export of gold in terms of total merchandise exported out of Ghana was about 41.5% in June 2021. Owing to this, the current focus of the Ghana's mining industry has particularly been on gold. And however, there are other major commodities that are explored in Ghana, particularly in agriculture. We've got cocoa, and then we've also got crude oil, which I mentioned is being drilled at offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Guinea, just at southern Ghana. There's also timber, diamond, bauxite, and then manganese ore. In Ghana as well, there are currently about 23 large-scale mining companies. This is mainly characterized by mining companies such as Anglo Gold Ashanti, we've got Newmont, and then our own Perseus Mining. Now, Perseus Mining is the only Australian-owned mining company that is producing in Ghana, and they are into the production of gold. We also have Chirano, we also have Golden Star Resources, and then Adamus Resources. Now, there are other Australian-owned, let's say, mining companies who are also doing a few exploration work and are almost at the verge of actual production. That is Cardinal Resources, which is looking into battery metals such as lithium. And then we have also got Azuma Resources exploring gold in northern Ghana. Besides this major mining company, there are over 300 registered small-scale mining groups all over Ghana and about 90 mine support services companies. Now, for these 300 small-scale mining companies, they have a massive drive about the formalization of their activities. So the government of Ghana, through a community mining scheme, has ended up training about 5,000 small-scale mining groups. And out of these 5,000, 2,000 of them have been given licenses to start, operating. Now, in Ghana as well, large-scale mines are mostly owned by foreigners, and I can say that only just one mine is owned by a Ghanaian. Most of the small-scale mining done in Ghana is done in the form of alluvial mining, and it's left as a preserve for Ghanaians. So what this means is that as a foreign company or Australian company, you cannot engage in small-scale mining in Ghana. So the small-scale mining sector is reserved for only Ghanaians or let's say Ghanaian companies. Now, mining support companies, however, are allowed to provide services to these small-scale mines, so long as the activities are well regulated or let's say formalized. Mining support companies are allowed to provide them services. Currently in Africa in general, there are about 152 ASX-listed mining companies operating about 458 mines across 34 countries on the continent. However, out of this total number, about 20 of these companies have operations or operate in Ghana, according to global data statistics. Now, there are key trends that we would find in Ghana's mining industry if we take a close look at how things change rapidly within the industry. And one of these is the extension of mine life. So mining in Ghana particularly is getting more advanced and technical, and operators are looking to extend mine life. You could imagine that most mines would have an average lifespan of about 25 years. However, for the key mining companies that are in this country, the interest is in extending the mine lives of these various concessions that they have got. And so we have other issues such as maybe taxes, high utility costs, and then local regulations that continue to be an impediment for mining operations in the country. However, most mining companies in Ghana are largely focused on expanding existing mines rather than going on new prospects. And so you would find also that we have a lot of investment going into countries like Burkina Faso because there's a lot of exploration work ongoing there. Whereas in Ghana, investment in Ghana's mining industry by foreign partners has declined in the past few years, simply because most of the mines in Ghana are currently looking at rather enlarging the current pits that they have rather than going on new explorations for new sites. There is also the model of the open cast method as against the underground mining method. So most of the mines in Ghana are open cut. However, underground mining is something that is gaining a lot of attention. And as I mentioned earlier, this is just because miners want to extend their mine life. The main types of gold mining in Ghana is usually the large scale, which I mentioned. However, for open cast mining, that has what has been the traditional, way of mining in Ghana. And so underground mining is the new phase. And underground mines are either designed in such a way that it is with a decline and then equipped with a shaft. And then currently there are about 8 open pit mines and then 3 underground mines. However, we have 2 major companies in Ghana who are operating both the open cast and then the underground mining methods. And I'll show a snapshot of that when we go to the next slide. There is also the model of owner mining versus contract mining. And what this seeks to do is that we have major mining companies currently outsourcing most of their core mining activities to contractors. And so the idea is so they can focus on things like administration, capital expenditure, and other things, whilst these contract miners are mostly engaged in things like drilling and blasting, ore processing, and the likes. Now, to the next slide, this is a snapshot of what I mentioned earlier about the key, or let's say major mining companies in Ghana, and then the type of mining methods that they use. And so we have Adamus Resource, for example, using just the open cast, whereas when we look at a company like Golden Star Wasa Limited, they are using both the underground and then the open cast method. Now, just to touch a little bit on opportunities in Ghana's mining sector. Next slide, yeah. So again, as mentioned earlier, mining companies in Ghana are usually, and this is not just a problem in Ghana per se, but in West Africa in general. They are under pressure to cut costs and increase efficiency, and then be more environmentally friendly, as well as improve safety. Now, Australian companies are looking to come into Ghana or assess opportunities in Ghana's mining industry can look at providing technology and the technical services that seeks to address the above problem that I mentioned, or present tailored solutions that seeks to address a particular problem that might be identified in a particular mine. So just to put things in perspective, we can group these opportunities into about 3 key major areas. And the first one is the core mining, where we have got drill and blast, grade control, and then load and haulage, which has got to do with the timing between when, let's say, dump trucks pick ore that is blasted below the pits and then bring it to the surface. So if this cycle can be reduced drastically, miners are interested in technologies around these kind of activities. There is also opportunities in the processing side, that is the crushing and milling, linear grading, and then trash screening. Also for the supply of pump water treatment technologies, elution, and then electrowinning. Electrowinning, particularly, as most of you would know, has to do with using electricity to extract a mineral from an ore in a chemical solution. And therefore, any technology that can seek to reduce the use or cost of electricity when it comes to something like electrowinning is something that most miners in Ghana are interested in listening to. And that brings me down to the next bullet, which is about electricity reduction or energy saving. So as mines are going underground into underground mining, there is an interest in proper lighting systems and ventilation systems underground. There are also other side opportunities like provision of geotechnical services, training of technical personnel in underground mining operations, particularly in the areas of ventilation officers, hydrologists, mechanical operators, and the likes. Also, fatigue management and predictive technologies. So any technology that can seek to prevent accidents is also welcomed. Water management, and then land reclamation. So technologies around sustainable mining are also very much welcome in Ghana's mining industry as opportunities. Now, with gold alone accounting for more than 90% of Ghana's mineral revenue, government is taking strides to focus on other minerals as well. And so it's aspiring for an integrated bauxite to aluminum industry, and then as well as an integrated iron to steel industry. Owing to this, government set up the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, and then the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, backed by legislation. And these two bodies just come in to help to formalize mining explorations that has to do with minerals such as bauxite and then steel. Now, these two bodies largely are seeking investment partners, both locally and internationally, to develop the value chain in areas such as mining and development, refineries, that is, refineries that can process ores from these two main minerals into finished products like jewelry and the rest. Retrofit smelter, we've got an aluminum retrofit smelter in Ghana. The idea is to have investors that can look at retrofitting it to make it either produce more or work better and more efficiently. Other systems such as power and then downstream products. There is also opportunity in the area of solar salt, where the company is currently looking for technical services advisory as well as retooling to be able to increase the capacity of a traditional solar salt mine, which exists somewhere in the outskirts of the Greater Accra region. There's also a call for investors in the development of an LBMA certified refinery. Current ambitions for the government, the Minerals Commission and Ghana Chamber of Mines is actually around looking at making Ghana a preferred destination for the manufacture of what we call mining inputs. So for mining inputs specifically, on an average, Ghana imports about $6 million worth of things like activated carbon to be used in the mining industry. And the idea is that if we can have local companies or partners to partner local companies here who can produce these mining inputs locally and then make Ghana a hub for the supply of these mining inputs to other West African mining jurisdictions. So it is an area that there's a lot of encouragement from government and then industry players to be able to invest in or partner with local companies to develop. Next slide, please. Now, so just to touch a little bit on regulations in Ghana's mining industry. So in Ghana, mining regulations are getting stricter, and there's a heavy push for local content participation. Now, the whole idea of local content participation is just to enhance local participation in the mining sector, create more employment opportunities for locals, and as well as retain a greater share of the minerals revenue in the country for national development or to support national developments. In Ghana as well, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is responsible for the overall regulation of the mining sector. However, technical regulations are done by the Minerals Commission. So the Minerals Commission manages things such as licensing and providing guidelines to where key things can be done or not done, or try to place a fine line between things like what foreign companies can engage in Ghana's mining industry and what is reserved for local companies. Next slide. Okay, so just before I go on to this, so now in Ghana, there is a list from the Minerals Commission that is recognized as the local procurement list, which is not coming up on this presentation, but I'll touch on that briefly. So on this list, the production or supply of specific goods are classified based on the ownership of firms that are in the country. So there are some activities, or let's say services or products, that can only be supplied or provided by companies that have got exclusively Ghanaian shareholders or directors. These include services such as haulage services, catering services, security services, legal services, and then supply of fuel. And then there are services that can only be supplied by companies that are strictly incorporated in Ghana. These include things like insurance services, financial services, and then contract mining. Then we have services or products that can be supplied by companies that are owned by either Ghanaians or foreigners, or I would say are headed by both Ghanaian nationals and then non-citizens. And these include things like grinding media, explosives, cement, nuts and bolts, bolts and nuts. And with experience working in Austrade, what I've realized is that most of the products and services Australian met companies seek to bring into market will usually fall under those that are not exclusive to only Ghanaian shareholders or companies that are strictly incorporated in Ghana. However, it is always important to check with either Austrade or the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources or the Ghana Minerals Commission before a product or service is brought into market. And this is to make sure that the local content regulations in Ghana's mining regulations are not kind of put on the side, because local content is something that is under a heavy push when it comes to Ghana's regulation in the mining industry. Now, so in a nutshell, Australian companies looking to enter Ghana's market are advised to first review the mining and then minerals regulations. That's a general one, LI 2173, and then LI 2174, and try to understand the information that is in there, especially those around setting up in Ghana as a local mining support services company. These LIs will also help you understand or know the areas that foreign companies are allowed to participate. And like I mentioned before, prospective mining support services companies must be very mindful of local content provisions in these regulations. Australian companies or MEX companies looking also to enter into Ghana's mining industry or mining market, I also advise to spend time investigating the market, obtain professional advice where appropriate, and then do a thorough investigation of the issues involved in entering the market, as well as establishing business relationships. Now, Austrade have got an extensive database of referral service providers who may be able to assist with things like due diligence, setting up an office, HR, finance, logistics, and the rest, wherever required. And so eligible Australian MEX companies can also contact Austrade for referrals when they need assistance within the market. Thanks. I will leave it here for further questioning in the panel discussions.
Well, thank you very much indeed, John. After a somewhat difficult start, you got through that very nicely with lots of meaty stuff for us to consider. And now, of course, I'm delighted to introduce you to our moderator, Sean Rooney. Sean is the Manager of Strategic Operations at Strategy of Strategic Operations at Global Victoria. He's got a degree in Geology and Earth Sciences and has worked directly with the resources industry for over 20 years, and he is very much respected. So thank you, Sean, for taking on this role.
Thank you very much, and it was fantastic presentations from Nana and John. So there's a number of questions that come through. So, and I've got my own questions because I'm obviously very curious about the market. But if I go through the questions that have been submitted first, I think that would be the best way. So first question, which I presume mainly applies to Nana, but feel free, John, to tip in if you feel like you can value add to it. And this is from Timothy Chuma.
Sorry, Sean.
We've lost your foot.
Yeah, no, that might have been my fault. I might have accidentally muted you there, Sean. So
that's okay. I'll try that one again.
Please go again. Thank you.
So is there any organisation, government or private, that assists with due diligence on the ground for Australian companies who want to partner with companies in Ghana, especially in the gold industry? And I think John in particular mentioned the role of Austrade, but outside of that, is there any other organisations you can recommend?
Thanks so
yeah,
much.
so
Sorry, please.
Yeah, so with these referral service providers, they are companies we check on an ongoing basis. And so we cannot mention any names at the moment, but depending on the type of service that you want to look for, or let's say you want assistance in, Austrade, like I mentioned, has always got an extensive database of these service providers that we can provide.
Fantastic. And Nana, can you value add to that one as well? Do you know anyone or any organisations?
So actually, that's what we do. So that is a big part of what we do. So I'm lucky that I can say that freely. And that honestly, I didn't plant that question. That is part of our day job: reputational risk investigations, ranging from public record requests through to the actual source inquiries aspect of it. Be it trying to understand from relevant stakeholders, be it regulatory, local community, the competitors, supply chain. I think that's a plurality of the work that we do. The country risk information is a necessary element of asking the right questions. But at the end of the day, more often than not, the point is due diligence.
No, thanks very much for that. Now, the next question's from Boban Tomic. I hope I pronounced Tomic properly. To what extent are Chinese miners present in Ghana? Do you have a lot of Chinese investment in the market?
the short answer, I'd say actually this is a very has been a very current issue for Ghana. It's an Chinese activity in areas that, as John was explaining, are preserved by law for Ghanaians. So trying to clamp down on illegal mining by Chinese operators is something that's been very much part of the political discourse, to the extent that Chinese authorities have had to say to their diaspora that if you are violating Ghanaian law, you're on your own, effectively. It's required an official response to sort of, well, one, two, I'm sure clarify, but the other thing is to preserve the diplomatic relationship between Ghana and their Chinese partners. So there is Chinese activity in the mining sector in Ghana. Unfortunately, a lot of it falls into this bracket. I think there are also questions around Chinese financing of law, not questions, but there are efforts towards Chinese investment in legal activities, let's say in the bauxite industry, for example, as well. John, I don't know if I missed anything there.
Yeah, you said it right. That is just what it is.
Oh, fantastic. So another one, this is from Johan Hawinkel, I think it's pronounced, and this is for John. How does the government encouragement of local manufacturing, what does it consist of? Is there subsidies, there's government grants and programs? What's exactly going on in that space?
So the focus is not mainly on things like subsidies or grants, but usually partnering with local manufacturing firms. So particularly when I mentioned Ghana being prepared to become a regional hub for the production of mining inputs, the idea is to get foreign companies who can partner with local firms to be able to set up those either factories or industries to be able to produce those mining inputs. Now, there are agencies such as the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, which can be contacted for most of the information about setting up in Ghana in terms of subsidies and would I say funding that can be accessed with relating to setting up a company in Ghana. There's also the Free Zones Board that can assist with information like that. And then the Ghana Registrar Department, which takes care of registration and incorporation of businesses in the country. However, like I mentioned, with things like this, it's always good to seek professional advice from some of the repair service providers that we have and get up-to-date information before any particular decision is taken around things like this.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I've got a follow-up question to that too, just to add on it. So when you're operating in the Ghanaian market and you sort of, is it better to establish a local business there or operate as a foreigner, or are you prevented from doing that? And what's the best way of setting up your business in Ghana? Okay,
so this depends on the particular product you want to bring into market. And so I mentioned earlier that there are just some services that are a preserve for Ghanaians, or let's say companies incorporated in Ghana. However, to look at it in another perspective, having a local partner, so Ghana as an English-speaking country is bounded by 3 other French-speaking countries. And as, let's say, a foreign company who is operating in a country like Ghana, the manager or whoever the lead person is will require visas to travel all across these smaller countries. And so having a local presence here or a partner here seeks to address some of these problems. And so the idea is that instead of looking at just coming in to set up as a whole, it would be better to partner with a local firm, check the grounds, establish the business networks before looking at incorporating in Ghana as a whole, maybe an independent company. And so the focus has always been about local content inclusion, partner with somebody local who has got the experience and has got the networks already, rather than looking at setting up directly here. However, what I'm saying now depends on the particular product that the company is looking at bringing into market. And so if it's a technical product that requires, very, very, very much technical, engagements, yes, you can look at other models. But if it's just about distribution of, let's say, things like mining inputs or consumables, having a local partner is a preferred choice.
No, thanks very much for that. So another question from Martin Kwakwa, and this probably relates to sort of stuff that's more after my heart, which is the geology and exploration side of things. And Martin says, you mentioned that Ghana government is seeking investors for various sectors of the mining industry. does the government go around the world actively seeking those investors, or is it hoping they sort of knock on the door and sort of make offers? Is there room for Ghanaians overseas to help in that regard to get introductions into that market?
Yes. So what is done is that just like Austrade will provide insight into opportunities that are currently available in Ghana, the government of Ghana would do a similar thing. So either there are news publications or webinars, or let's say conferences where these things are mentioned. And particularly these opportunities, like I mentioned, are opened to both locals and foreigners. So it's not necessarily just for foreigners to access, but both local companies are also allowed to access. So it's put in in a wider domain for everybody with eligibility and capacity or capability to be able to assist in either in terms of investment or retooling or provision of technical services to participate.
Okay, fantastic for that. And this is a question again from myself, and this is probably to Nana and yourself, John. So when you're operating in Ghana, what's the best way of operating within the community so that you maintain that social to license to operate that's so important, and particularly with the local content? How do you operate in that market, endear yourself to the local communities and embed yourself in that market?
Well, I would start with principle, being that there aren't, sort of taking the approach that there aren't shortcuts. So doing adequate sort of diligence or understanding who the specific stakeholders are in a community, and not relying on the first answer that one receives, and also not assuming that any CSR activity, because you've set it up, is therefore going to be efficient and ideal over time. So the diligencing isn't a one-off. It's a thing that has to be monitored and evaluated over time. We've worked with clients who have, for example, set up support for local schools, or for school attendance, or for school feeding, activities like that, in order to build relationships with the local community, but they haven't had the ideal channels for payment. And even assuming the best of the people that you may be dealing with, I think it's better to verify. So that's what I would say. I would say the starting out with the in the knowledge that you're not going to look for short answers, for shortcuts, that at the outset that there will be diligencing, and then ongoing there'll be monitoring and evaluation, which includes regular contact with the local community. And that local community can be complex. It isn't necessarily just the person who's currently holding the stool in the area that you're operating.
Thanks so much, Nana. John, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yes, so Nana put it quite right, and just as it is. And so community engagement is key. Having the local partner is also key. And again, depending on what particular service you want to bring into market or look at accessing in terms of an opportunity, you might have to deal with other state agencies, such as the even Water Resources Commission, agencies such as the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and agencies such as the Ghana Standards Authority. So long as you are playing by the rules, I think the community engagement is the key thing that you have to look at. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Now, John, you already outlined various METS opportunities in your presentation. I was just going to try and expand on that question. So do you have, are there other, depending on how the mining industry and sector goes there, particularly for the bigger companies, mostly in Australia and around the world, you sort of things like mine optimization, electrification of the mines, and that concept of towards zero harm, zero waste, zero pollution, etc. Do you see those as opportunities in there? Are there opportunities in Ghana for METS companies in terms of like tailings treatment or reclamation of mined lands? Do you see those as areas that will be important to the government in the future?
Yes. So as mentioned earlier, so any technology that seeks to increase efficiency make mines more environmental friendly and then improve safety. So areas of sustainable mining is what is of interest to most of the mining companies within the region. And this is not reserved to Ghana alone, like I mentioned earlier. So this is all across West Africa. And so yes, there is opportunity in those areas. As I put it, I just summarize it just to hold them as placeholders. However, if you would go deeper into that, things like sustainable mining, grade control, electricity reduction, as I mentioned, most mines are going underground. So technologies that can help with pit lighting, pit lighting at a very optimal electricity consumption rate. Things like fuel burn rate. So additives that can help, let's say, diesel plant, diesel generators, not to consume much fuel, at the same time reduce their carbon footprint, are technologies that mining companies in Ghana are looking at employing. So any solution, either tailored to a particular mine or as a general solution that can be applied in most of the mines in the country within these areas, are welcomed by mining companies in Ghana.
Thanks very much for that, John. That was very comprehensive and probably gives a lot of areas for people to think about when they looking for opportunities in that particular market. Another one is education and opportunity in Ghana. Obviously, as the sector becomes more sophisticated, there's lots of high-paying, highly skilled jobs in that area. So therefore, that lends itself to sort of educational opportunities to a certain extent, both at a vocation level and a tertiary level as well. Especially coming from Australia, I think we've got 9 of the top 10 mining, engineering, and geology courses in the world at the moment.
Yes. So typically, key Australian commercial interest in Ghana is in the gold mining sector, particularly, let's say, mining services and technology. Australia, however, has a small footprint, but a growing one in education as well as in the agribusiness sector. And so, we for example, when I mentioned when it for things like sustainable mining, right? Any training programs around sustainable mining, or let's say underground mining, it's something that yes is of interest to mines. And so education and training is a key opportunity as well, especially when it comes to what we would call train the trainer. So say a manager or a mines manager, or maybe some supervisory person from Anglo Gold Ashanti is requires some form of training. It is an area that Australian opportunities can actually look into, because once he is trained, and adopt these skills, those can be remodeled to the remaining staff as well. So yes, education, particularly in the mining sector, is a key opportunity area in Ghana's mining industry as well.
Thanks very much. And there's no other questions. So I'll leave you and Nana with one general one from me, which probably might be more thought-provoking. What do you see as the top 3 future issues in mining in Ghana?
The top 3 future issues for, I think, local content. I think that that there are other. I think we should keep an eye on stability agreements, so local content, stability agreements, and I think this skilling up point that. No, I'm going to change my mind on that. So local content, stability agreements, and this continued issue of small scale mining, professionalizing small scale artisanal mining. That really is a strategic imperative for at a national level, and then I think in terms of reputational management for the mining companies and for social and for the maintaining a social contract. So that's what I would offer.
And yourself, John, how would you look at the next 3 big things?
Yeah, so Nana has mentioned all. However, I also mentioned in the course of the presentation that most of the mines in Ghana were going underground instead of looking at exploring new mining sites. And owing to this, investment in the mining sector has been seeing a sharp decline, whereas that of jurisdictions such as Burkina Faso continue to see much investment going into the mining sector in that particular country. So for Ghana, the what I foresee, going up is that yes, there is a lot of opportunity, yes, within the mining space. However, with not much exploration ongoing, these mines who have reached their maturity stage and at the top would have to probably do more to stay at the top. And that what we'll be seeing is a sharp decline again in the interest in Ghana's mining industry. So yes, the fact that there is not much investment coming into Ghana's mining space is something that I see that is going to be a problem in the future as existing mines deplete.
Thanks very much. And I've just got one last question from Kazim Yunus, who's the Victorian Commissioner in the region, and he represents the Middle East, Russia and Africa, so pretty much has a third of the world. Can you please give a brief insight in the banking system in Ghana? Australian companies who are dealing in Ghana can be paid in Australian banks or transferring their money internationally. How does that all work out in that particular market? Or do they go through Mauritius or some other vehicle?
My understanding is that the authorities don't restrict profit repatriation in Ghana. Of course, withholding taxes and all the like apply, but there aren't restrictions on profit repatriation in Ghana. The banking system in Ghana is well established. As I said, there was a mining sector, in inverted commas, sanitization exercise in 2017 to the start of 2019. Yes, but I think non-profit, the NPL ratio is still relatively elevated, but the sector is growing. That's what I would. And like much of the rest of the region, a lot of international banks in Ghana. So 23 banks locally, if I remember correctly, including ABSA, Standard Chartered, so on and so forth. A lot of Nigerian banks in Ghana as well, as they are in the rest of the sub-region. That's what I would say.
Thanks very much. And John, do you have any more insights on that one?
No. So that's fine. Nana has put it just right.
Okay, thanks very much. And so does anyone else have any more questions, or is that it from anyone?
Well, it looks like that's it, Sean. So if I may, on your behalf, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And we hope that this first phase presentation of Know Your Markets will whet your appetite to be with us for our next webinar, Know Your Customer, in which we will put to air later this month as per this slide on the screen at this time. This is an important next step in that we'll be looking to provide briefings for you with on-ground market-facing organisations that will lead to your direct contacts and connections for your next business engagement. To ensure that you don't miss this important update about this event, please register your interest on our website. This can be simply done by clicking on the Africa Met's Accelerator Program tab and clicking the third drop-down option as shown. And we can also post updates about the program on our social media, so we encourage you to follow us there. I thank both Nana from Songhai Advisory and John from Austrade in Ghana, along with our moderator, Sean Rooney, from Global Victoria, for taking part and providing such good insights to meet the brief, Know Your Markets. We at the AACC would otherwise welcome your communications to help us help you. Our website provides full details on the Africa Met's Accelerator Program. Your next best step would be to include taking up membership to ensure we're able to be connected to keep you fully informed. So I thank you, and we look forward to progressing this program with you, and thank you again.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.